So, chapter 3, we've established in chapter 2 that we have godly soul, not just godly, but a piece of God. So now we want to know more about it, because the godly soul is going to be our ticket to being able to serve Hashem, right? Ki karov elecha hadavar ma'od. So we want to know more about our godly soul. So chapter 3 is delving deeper into the nature of this godly soul. So we're going to zoom in and look at the godly soul. And we're going to learn that the godly soul, in its powers, parallel, meaning reflects directly the powers of Hashem, which are called in Sefer Yetzirah the Sfirot. It's no surprise, because the source of the soul is Chochmah Ila'ah, is Hashem. And so, being that the soul emerges from, so to speak, right, comes out of Chochmah Ila'ah, it parallels the Sfirot of the world of Atzilut. It parallels Hashem in his, as he manifests himself, right, as he shines his glimmer of light into creation. The soul mamash parallels Hashem. You realize that I use the word glimmer, right? That I use the word Hashem as he radiates, as he shines himself. Because all the while we're always holding the fact that Hashem is infinite light, right? That is Hashem Ein Sof. That is Hashem beyond Atzilut. And Hashem shines a glimmer of his light into creation. And so whenever we speak about Hashem having powers, that Hashem having characteristics, as we kind of mentioned yesterday about talking about Hashem's wisdom, right? That Hashem and his wisdom are one once we've jumped into Seder Hishtalshalut. In other words, after the Tzimtzum. After Hashem constricts himself, his infinite light, to generate a glimmer, to generate a reflection, to generate a usable light that can relate to others, that can generate creation, again, deep philosophical ideas, that's when we have Sfirot. Okay, so just to know that Hashem is infinite light. Within creation, we have Hashem's glimmer. Now, again, Sefer Yetzirah, we're not going to get to it in depth there. You can read more if you want in Miller, or you can, as we continue, we'll get little bits here and there to understand more deeply the idea of the Sfirot. The Miller himself says there is no definition. He gives 6 or 7 possibilities. But basically, we'll use the term energies, right? Energies, potentials, powers, energies. These different energies of Hashem's light. And so again, looking at our soul, we want to understand our soul. I have a godly soul inside of me. It's a piece of God. Yes, it's a piece of God. And our soul has powers that reflect the powers of these energies, the worlds of Atzilut. Energies of Hashem, these glimmers of Hashem's light. So what are these powers? So the powers are 10, right? 10 Sfirot, 10 powers. 10 tools. Another way we can use is tools, right? 10 tools. Mm-hmm. And these tools, these powers exist, like we said, as a bundle of 10. And the 10 are actually what constitutes all of the levels of the soul. Right? So we mentioned yesterday, I think, right, that the soul has a number of levels. Right? We said that, just to, if anybody wants to pin it, the connection point to yesterday, we said that there seems to be different souls when we look around, right? There's higher level souls, lower level souls, so to speak, tzaddikim, simple people, more sensitized to godliness, less sensitized to godliness. And after we said, not only is that true of the neshama level of the soul, but also of the nefesh level of the soul. There's differences, right? And we said true. And the origin is the same for all the soul levels. So here we're coming back to that idea of soul levels and saying that each soul level, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida, they're all sourced in chokhmah ila'ah, right? The source of all of the levels of an individual soul is Hashem. And therefore, the 10 powers are reflected in each level of the soul. Okay, so what we're appreciating is like a pretty complex system that is the soul, and there's also every level reflects, like there are parallels, direct parallels, and it's all paralleling Hashem. Each level of my soul is directly paralleling the point of origin, Hashem. And therefore there are 10 powers, just like Hashem has these 10 energies through which he is emitting his light. So what are the 10 powers? What are the 10 tools? So they subdivide into 2 categories. The first category has 3 of the 10, and the second category has 7 of the 10. I'm thinking about all the math homework I did with my daughter, you know? Just need to get that out there. Did a lot of these math problems. It just goes on and on. It's like, I guess you have to practice math, right? It just goes on and on. It's like the same problem again and again and again, like another page. All right, so 3 plus 7 equals 10. Okay, so we have 10 soul powers. So they subdivide into 2 categories. And again, this is on every level of the soul. So the 3, these are called mothers, I think. Fun? Yeah. And these are called doubles, which the Alter Rebbe doesn't really explain why. I don't think, unless I'm missing it. But Miller explains, and it's a bit complex, and I don't think it's so important for us right now, because if the Alter Rebbe doesn't speak it out, I don't know if it's so important. I'll share in a minute, but I'm going to leave it aside because I don't want to overload us with too much information, because I think it is secondary. But just to put these correct terms on the board, and then I'm going to give other terms. These are the more inner soul powers. These are the more outer or external soul powers. In other words, on this level, we're relating to ourselves. On this level, we're relating to others or to the outside. Other term, like I guess we're creating a chart of different, descriptions. And also over here we can put emotions, and over here we can put maybe intellectual. Okay, we'll see this all as we continue inside. And what are these specifically? So now I want you guys to call them out. Right, so we said we described the categories. Now specifically, what are they called, the powers? Chabad, Chachma, Bina, Dat, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. These are the names for the powers of our soul. In other words, through these powers, we get to express our godly soul. Okay, so really what we want to appreciate today is the relationship between the 3 and the 7. And I think mother, right, the term mother gives us a big inkling in, because when we hear the word mother, what do we think? I mean, we can think lots of things, but maybe right. You can't have a child without a mother. And so if we want to have these emotions, we need to start with Chabad. We need to start with, we'll define these and a little bit here. Today, we focus on Chochmah and Bina. Tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, the Alter Rebbe is going to define for us Dat. So the relationship is that the Chochmah, Bina, Dat gives birth to the emotions. And so what is the goal? What is the goal? To be in Chabad or to be in emotions?
Is it to birth healthy emotions? From the Chabad?
Yeah. Beautiful. So my question is, what is the goal? To be in Chabad or to be in emotions? Can I Can I read into what you're saying that the answer is emotions? Can. It's true. It's true, and it's something that we can forget. Again, depending on how engrossed you are in like Chassidut Chabad, right? A person could forget that the goal is the heart. The goal is the emotions. The goal is not the head. The goal is not the intellectualizing, as we'll define these powers, we'll define these tools. But they are not the goal. At the same time, you can't give birth, as you said, Elisheva, to healthy children, to children at all, right? Let alone healthy children without meditation, right? We want to sum up the result of Chabad. We will put here meditation, contemplation, meditative work, right? Meditative work. We cannot give birth to emotions without meditative work. We see that from the relationship. In other words, meditative work is absolutely critical. And we're going to describe also, what do we mean meditative work? What are we meditating on? Clearly, we're meditating on the greatness of God, but we haven't spoken it out yet. We can't birth godly emotions without meditative work, and at the same time, the goal is to be a Jew with turned on emotions. In the Mitzler Rebbe Dafka, I was listening the other day. The second time I heard the Rav say this, because he said it thousands of times, but really emphasizing this point, and apparently the Mitzler Rebbe really emphasizes it, that it's the heart. The goal is the heart. The goal is the heart. But we can't get there without the mind. Okay. So let's have a look inside and fill in some more details. Okay, so we want to delve into the structure of the divine soul. We all have a divine soul. It's gonna, when we shine the light of the divine soul, then B'ezrat Hashem will shine our light as an embodied soul, as a Jew, as a person, as a Jew. And so what is the structure of the divine soul? What do I have to work with? What is this thing that's a piece of God? What is it? What constitutes the godly soul? Okay, how can I use it? How can I process ideas? How can I generate feelings? How can I be in my soul, my godly soul? Okay, so let's have a look inside for the 25th. Happy Hanukkah. 25th of Hanukkah. Of Kislev. Okay. Perek Gimel. Vihine. Kol bechina umadriga mishalosh elu nefesh ruach uneshama klula me'eser bechinot. So Dr. Avi says all of the levels of the soul, and he mentions the nefesh, ruach, and neshama. I'm not sure why he doesn't mention chaya yechida, although I'm 99% sure it includes also the chaya and yechida. My hunch why he doesn't mention them is because it's not the topic of our discussion right now. Because the chaya and the yechida, dimensions of the soul, are not easily accessible to me. They're the higher levels of the soul, they're more peripheral, they're more surrounding, transcending. You can't necessarily pull out those kochot on a regular basis. And so this is very practical. So that, again, this is my hunch, right? So the Alter Rebbe is mentioning the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, which are within our, which do define me. My godly soul as it is within me. So each of these three levels of the soul, as we said yesterday, nefesh is bodily intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. And ruach is emotional intelligence. Neshama is my consciousness, intelligence. Right? So these three levels of my psyche, of my godly soul, each have 10 levels within them. How do we get 10 levels? Where did they come from? Well, they came from where my soul comes from. They're paralleling, they're reflecting the source of the soul. Right? It's a mirror. It's so real. So real. There's no construct here, right? The godly soul is a reflection of its source. When I think about that, when I meditate on that, it's very empowering for me. Like the godly soul is not in a vacuum, just being its incredible self. It's reflecting its source, and that is its power. Okay, so Keneged Eser Sfirot Elionot Shenishtalshelu Mehen, corresponding, paralleling, reflecting the 10 supernal Sfirot. So in here, they translate Sfirot as divine manifestations. We said energies, right? In which they originate and whence they descend. Okay. Hanichlakot l'shtayim. So these 10 energies, right, 10 powers subdivide into two categories. Shalosh imot, the 3 mothers, v'sheva kfulot, the 7 doubles. Okay, so it says it will presently be explained about this twofold manner that it manifests itself, the doubles. I guess we'll see when we get there. It's not today, but maybe now's a good place to share, just to share in brief what Miller shares here. It says that the doubles have to do with letters that each of these emotions are associated with. And the letters, which kind of tell the story around the emotion, around these powers, it's the identity of the letter. As everything is created with letters, that's how Hashem creates, with letters, right? The 10 utterances, the holy letters. We'll talk about that also later, much later. But the letters are Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Kaf, Pei, Reish, and Taf. These 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 letters are called doubles because they each can be written / enunciated with a dagesh or without a dagesh, meaning the bet is the bet or a vet. It's hard or soft, right? Also the gimel, we know from I can't do it, right? But there's different ways to pronounce the gimel if you have the tradition. Also the dalet, also the kaf, also the pei, also the reish, and the taf. So these letter associations with the sfirot, being doubles, having 2 versions, 2 variations of themselves, refer to the hardness or the softness of the expression. In other words, I'm going to read it from inside. The double identity of these letters is symbolic of the 2 ways God relates externally to his creations. Does he draw close with kindness, in other words, a softness, or push away with judgment, a hardness? Before the world was created, this dilemma did not exist. But once there is a world, because now there are 7 emotions, in other words, there's an outward expression, now there is this doubledness that is up. Right? Hard or soft, these options. Soft letter, hard letter. Okay, so the emotions represent the external expression, represent the fact that there is now creation is moving into focus. In other words, there is this doubling, right? It's what's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember. Okay. Tov. But again, we're putting that in parentheses. The Alter Rebbe has not explained it to us explicitly. So we have mothers and offsprings that are doubles. Okay. Carrying on. Perush. So what do we refer to these categories? What do we refer to the specific energies as they are in the first category, in the second category? So up here we have Perush, Chochma, Bina, V'Da'at. Ve'shiv'at yimei habinyan. So now the Alter is giving us again another term. You can put it in your chart. These emotions are also referred to as Shivat Yimei HaBinyan, which is the 7 days of creation. Why? What's the connection between the emotions and the 7 days of creation? You can guess. So we've mentioned that the first 3, right, the mothers are the internal, so to speak, reality or world, and the 7 emotions are already venturing outward. There's a creation element, there's an other, right? And so specifically the 7 emotions, Hashem's sfirot, Hashem's energies, his glimmer, right, that is radiating and manifesting, Hashem's 10 manifestations. So each of the 7 sort of guide, if you will, or facilitate, create a different day of creation. As the first day is a channeling of Hashem's chesed, that manifestation. Right? The second day is a channeling of Hashem's gvura, that manifestation. And so the 7 sfirot, 7 midot are also referred to as Shiv'at Yimei HaBinyan, the 7 days of creation, as they go hand in hand. Okay, so again on our chart, but again, as we learn Chassidut, we'll see these references. We've seen it in Netivot Shalom. It comes up all the time. This play between the emotions and the days of creation. Because they're like, there's a code, there's something locked in there that is intrinsic to the day and to the emotion and to this expression of Hashem energy. Tov. So that's the origin point in Hashem, right? In Atzilut, in Hashem's Sfirot. V'chein b'nefesh ha'adam, right? And so now we're back to us, our soul, our godly soul, parallel. Also, nichleket l'shtayim. What is it called within us? Seichel and midot. So the terms we put on the board before were more referring to Hashem. And then when I put intelligence, right, and emotions, that's how it's called in our soul. Seichel versus midot. What is included in the seichel? Chochma, bina, v'dat. Same names, right? Chochma, bina, dat. That is our seichel. That is the mind, capacity, tools, powers of the godly soul. And the midot, hamidot hein, ahavat Hashem, love of God, upachdo, v'yirato, right? Awe and fear of God. That is the second of the emotions of the godly soul, to be in awe of Hashem. Ulefa'aro, v'chule, and the third, tiferet, to glorify to Hashem, to speak out His praises, right? To exalt Hashem. That is the midah of tiferet. That is this tool of tiferet that comes to life, etc. Alter Rebbe here does not continue to delineate the rest of them because it's sufficient to just refer to the first three because the others are derivatives of these first three primary emotions. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet. Ve'chochma bina dat. So let's again go back to the relationship between the seichel and the midot. Ve'chochma bina dat nikru imot umakor lemidot. They are called the imot because they are the source of the midot. Ki hamidot hein toldot chochma bina dat. Because the emotions are the children, the offsprings, right? They get born by means of the mothers. Chochma bina dat. I'm just thinking why. Right. In this context, like Chochmah is also being called a mother. Even though if you compare Chochmah and Bina, it's father and mother. Right? But I guess if we generalize, right, it's all mothers in the sense that they are producing. So even the father is a mother in this sense because it's a part of the production line. Okay. Ube'ur ha'inyan. So we're almost finished, right? But we're not yet finished because Alter Rebbe is now going to tell us. So we started with the godly soul when we left chapter 2. Now we said, let's delve into the godly soul and see what constitutes a godly soul. 10 midot. Seichel, or 10 sfirot, or 10 powers. 3 seichel, intellectual, 7 emotional, paralleling Hashem. In the world of Atzilut, the sfirot, the 10 sfirot, that also are 3 and 7. 3 imot, right, and 7 days of the week. Right? And so our seichel and midot parallel that. And we gave names, right? Chochma bina dat, chesed, gevurah, tiferet, etc. Now we're going to go in a little bit deeper and say, well, what is Chochma and what is Bina? And that's what we're going to conclude today. What is Chochma and what is Bina? So we know that they're of the first category. They're part of the Seichel. They're part of the mother category. But what are they specifically? Ube'or ha'inyan, ki hine ha'seichel shebenefesh ha'maskelet, ki hine ha'seichel shebenefesh ha'maskelet, shehu ha'maskil kol davar. Nikra b'shem Chochma. Koach ma. So first we define Chochma. What is Chochma? Chochma is our starting point, right? Chochma is the first, right? It's the first of the Sfirot and it's the first of our Kochot HaNefesh. What is the power of chokhmah? What is chokhmah as a tool of my soul? It's a tool of my psyche. Chokhmah. Very good. So the word chokhmah tells us, right, like all good Hebrew words, Lashon HaKodesh, tells us be'emet about the identity of the thing. So I just wrote chokhmah again. Why? Because chokhmah is 2 words. Koachma. Ayamuna. Hanukkah Sameach. Koachma. What does koachma mean?
What is?
Yefeh. Koachma is the koach to be in ma. The chokhmah as a tool, as a power, is the ability to be in ma. What does it mean to be in ma? To be in ma. What does it mean to be in ma? To hold a question, right? To be curious, to be inquisitive, to not know, to reach. That is the koach of the chokhmah of myself, and it's the first of the kochot hasechel. It's the first koach of intelligence, is to ask a question.
Almost like to put your hand up.
Look out, yeah, yefeh. It's so cute because chokhmah, as a letter, is symbolized by the yud, right? I don't know that he mentions that today, and it's kind of like the hand, if you will. I don't know. Even the hands together are 10, which is yud. It's like you have a really good question. You put all 10 fingers up. The yud, right? To ask a question, to put your hand up, to put up your little pinky, your yud, right? To be in question.
Because chet comes before chaf, and we're saying koach is chaf chet. It's acceptable to just switch the letters around.
I never even realized that. Yeah, it's totally acceptable. Yeah. And as we learn more about the derivations of letters, we'll see how interchangeable they really are based on particular rules. Yeah. So that's a very legitimate. You can get more and more far-fetched, so to speak, right? But switching letters is totally fair game.
Okay.
Yeah, good noticing. I didn't even. Yeah, koach, yefeh. I didn't even realize that. To that extent, it's just repeated koachma. I never even realized that it was a switch letter. Switch letters, yefeh. Sorry, koach. This is how it should be. Koachma. Okay. So the power to say, the power of chokhmah is the power to be in question, which is really, if you will, to be in non-ness, right? To be in non-existence, right? Because our answers are our kiyum. My answer is already me, but the question is stepping out of myself. Another hint at the power of chokhmah, of the soul power of chokhmah, is this word koach